traditionally, the foreskin is eaten by the father or a man in the family, and you put it between two slices of banana and you swallow the foreskin. You said that it feels a bit like cannibalism.
Definitely.
So it would not be weird?
Yes, but of course.
So it would be weird, but you would still do it.
Yes.
Hello cookies, it's Siri, I am back, and today we're going to talk about Malagasy culture. I've mentioned many times on this channel that I'm from Madagascar, but I've never really talked about a lot of different cultural aspects. Whichever title you see right now of this video is not clickbait. I'm not entirely sure yet what I'm going to name it, but it is definitely not clickbait. If you Google around a bit, you will see that Madagascar is one of the most circumcised countries in the world. Growing up, I did not know anyone, as in at least any boy or any man who hasn't been circumcised. It is a Malagasy tradition to circumcise boys when they're still young, not babies, but more like infants/young children, and you do it during the winter for better healing. This story is entirely linked to my experience and how my family does things. Every family is different, but when I was still studying in Madagascar, there was a lot of Malagasy language and Malagasy literature and Malagasy culture studies and lessons that we got, and I also had a private tutor in Malagasy that was so talented, and he loved the Malagasy language, the culture, the history, and he was so knowledgeable. He was really literate about everything related to Malagasy tradition, so I'm very fortunate that I had the opportunity to be his student. So everything I'm going to talk about is both linked to what I learned at school, what I learned through private tutoring, and how my own family does it, and how I perceive other families and acquaintances and people around. It might not represent every single Malagasy family, obviously, because it's only coming from my own experience. So my family is a little bit weird because I think we still have a lot of tradition ingrained in us from a very young age, but at the same time we have also embraced a lot of Western ways of doing things. So we mix and match, and I think my family in general, as in the nuclear family and a little bit more extended family, has just picked whatever they wanted to pick from the different traditions and the different ways of life of both the Western culture and the Malagasy culture. Now, I know that you clicked because of the title. So basically, when my brother was young, it was his time to do his didim-poitra, which is his circumcision. So in Madagascar, you usually don't do it with anesthesia, and you do it when the boy is, I would say, between the age of 3 to 6, 6 being a little bit too old, but it's usually still okay. And then once it's done, they wear a traditional Malagasy outfit called malabar. At least from where I'm from, they wear a malabar, so it looks like a pyjama, and it's quite loose on the crotch area for obvious reasons, and it's really comfortable. So we went to the doctors to get my brother's circumcision done, and traditionally the foreskin is eaten by the father or a man in the family, and you put it between two slices of banana and you swallow the foreskin. And I know that at this point I'm supposed to act shocked and tell you, I know, it's so crazy, who does that? I know, it's so weird. But when you grow up in a culture, you don't know anything else. When I grew up, my parents did not allow computers at home. We had it briefly, I think for 2 or 3 months, and then they took it away, so there was no real internet. We could watch French TV channels, but that was about it really. And if you know a little bit of geography, or you don't have to, Madagascar is an island, so we are very much into our own culture. And anyway, when a child grows up a certain way, they don't really question things. It's just the way it is, and it's your normal. So for me, that is very normal. All of my male cousins and uncles have done the circumcisions. It's something that is a big event in Mada. Usually You have a huge party where you invite family, friends, relatives. You have a huge banquet, food, and then the boy that gets circumcised gets tons of gifts. My cousin got a cow. He literally got a cow. Cow as in a huge, big cow. My brothers got tons of gifts. You get money. So it's really like Christmas, but at the same time, you have to give away your foreskin. Back to eating the foreskin, it is the traditional method of doing it. We don't throw the foreskin or anything like that. And like I said, the man in the family eats the foreskin between 2 slices of banana so that they don't have to chew it and it's just easy to swallow. I told you my family was not entirely 100% traditional, so my uncle was the one who was going to eat the foreskin because my father did not want to. So my uncle decided that instead of using banana, he wanted to use ham, as in ham. And so once the doctor cut off the foreskin, he gave it to my uncle. It was still bloody and loose. I mean, bloody, loose foreskin after you've been circumcised. Or maybe not you, but you know what I mean. And my uncle took it, he rolled it into a piece of ham, and then he put it in his mouth, he chewed, and he swallowed. All very slowly while everyone was giggling because it is not the traditional way to do it, and he actually really just chewed the whole thing. I did get my brother's permission to tell this story, by the way. As you know, if you have watched this channel recently, I got sterilized and I realized when I was 17 that I did not have to have children. But before that, I thought that that was the only way to live your life and I never really questioned things. Fortunately, I have, so now I've changed my mind. But before that, I used to want to have 4 daughters. Only daughters because I saw my brother's circumcisions, I saw my cousin's circumcision, and in my head, it was inevitable that it would happen if I had a boy, and I did not want to put my boy through that. But then in one of my previous relationships, I had a lot of discussions about the topic with one of my ex-boyfriends, and throughout those discussions, I realized as well that, okay, I still did not want to have kids back then because this is in my 20s, but I realized that even if I had wanted kids still as an adult, maybe my boys or my boy, if I had a boy, would not have needed to get the circumcision done. If I had lived here and I had boys, I don't know whether the doctors would have agreed without anesthesia and that some man in the family would be eating the foreskin. That would have been a little bit too much of a push on them, maybe. So it would have been hard anyway to try to get that done here. And plus, there would have been a father in the picture, and I know for sure that no one that I have ever been with, including the current boyfriend, would have been okay with having their son circumcised. It is actually an interesting topic, and I think in this sense it also includes the idea of, do you preserve tradition or do you abandon it and change your ways? I'm not entirely sure there is a right or wrong. I think this is really a gray area where it depends on the parents, it depends on the circumstances. But even if I still wanted to have boys now as an adult, it would have been a discussion with the father. And if the father is not Malagasy, I would have raised the children knowing both of their cultures. So if it were a Malagasy man, that would have been my husband and the father of my children. Of course, we would raise our children in a Malagasy culture a lot with the influence of the country where we live in. And if I am with someone that is not Malagasy, I would like the children to be raised in both cultures. I think that having different cultures and being in contact with different cultures makes you so much richer as a person, intellectually, emotionally. It is a huge gift to be exposed to different cultures. So I would have wanted my kids to be raised knowing that they're both Malagasy and I guess at the moment Swedish. I would teach them the Malagasy ways. I would explain to them that their uncles have all gotten circumcised and that it is something we do. And I would have told them about other traditions as well, like the returning of the dead, where we get the deads out of their tombs and then there's a huge party and they hang around. I'm not even joking right now. And I would explain all of that to them and give them the choice. So if they decide when they're old enough that they want a circumcision, then I would support them. And if they decide that, nope, I want to keep my private parts the way they are, then I would also be like, okay, good for you, son. I just want you to be happy. So that's more my stance nowadays. I'm not entirely rejecting the whole tradition and culture that I grew up in, but I'm also trying to be open-minded to the different circumstances that I'm currently in. I have to tell you though that every time I tell this story, the people around have a strong reaction. Men have a strong reaction for obvious reasons, because there's this type of solidarity, I think, between men and their private parts. They're just very protective of their private parts, and each other's private parts is just a bro thing. And talking about men reacting to this, I have a special guest for you today. I have the boyfriend, who is a man and who also has strong opinions about this whole thing, and it would be interesting to hear his opinion. We have the boyfriend over here with maybe some opinions. If we had a son and I said that the son had to be circumcised, would you eat the foreskin because you're the man in the family?
Yes!
I did not know, sir, that you had such tendencies of being enthusiastic about eating foreskin. But would you do it with ham or with a banana or with something else?
I feel like the jamon story is pretty interesting because that has a more flavor to it. So it would maybe hide the flavor of blood, I guess, more.
Yeah, but then you have to chew. If you use the banana, you can just swallow really quickly if you don't want to do it, because you said that it feels a bit like cannibalism.
Definitely.
So let me know, Cookies, do you think it's cannibalism to eat someone's foreskin?
I mean, that depends, I guess.
It depends on what?
If it is the child or a sexual act.
Ew, what are we even talking about here? This was not scripted, Cookies. So I thought he would not talk because he's like, oh, I'm so shy in front of a camera. Okay, if we had a kid, then would you want them to get circumcised?
No, I would not do that to them. I would not make that decision for them.
Yeah, that's what I said, that I think how we are right now, we would let them choose themselves. But okay, let's imagine this scenario. If your son is, say, 17 and goes, Dad, yeah, that was perfect. That was a perfect teenage boy voice. Says, Dad, I want to get circumcised. I want to be a real Malagasy. Can you please eat my foreskin? And your son is 17, so it's like a grown, almost grown man. But he really wants to be close to his Malagasy roots and respect his tradition. So would you do it if he asks it of you? And to be there and support, of course.
Of course.
So it would not be weird?
Yes, but of course.
So it would be weird, but you would still do it?
Yes.
Okay.
The same thing as we talked about if someone in your family would give me the honor of doing it.
Yeah.
I would also do it because you cannot refuse it. Because of how the traditions are in your country.
For a family, if you were to be asked to eat the foreskin, like you said, it is a huge honor and you can't really refuse. I mean, you can always refuse. Malagasy people are not pushy with our traditions because we still understand that maybe some things are a bit weird for people from abroad.
Can't imagine why.
But it's still a huge honor. So of course it's a bit of a dilemma, but you would do it thinking, oh, this is weird, but I guess I'm part of the family now.
Yeah, a bit
literally.
like that, yes.
Then that's it, Cookies. That is the boyfriend's opinion on this. He really likes Malagasy culture. He's very curious about it. And that's it for today's video. Cookies, let me know your thoughts. I'm very curious to hear what you have to say. If you're Malagasy, I'm also curious about your own experience. And let me know all of that in the comment section down below. So until next time, I will see you, Cookies, at the next video. Bye bye!